The abandoned hangar smelled of rust and forgotten wars. Commander Jake Morrison's boots echoed against the metal floor as he surveyed the wreckage of what had once been humanity's greatest fleet. 70 years had passed since the Convergence War ended, and Station Erebus had been left to drift in the outer rim, a graveyard of vessels too damaged to salvage, too significant to destroy. He pulled out a cigarette from his jacket, real tobacco, not the synthetic garbage they peddled on the inner colonies. His grandfather had given him the pack before shipping out to the war that changed everything. Jake had saved them for special occasions, though he wasn't sure what was special about today. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was knowing he'd be the last human to walk these corridors before the station was finally decommissioned. The flame from his lighter cast dancing shadows across the hull of the Indomitable, a carrier-class warship that had seen more battles than most civilizations survived. As smoke curled upward, a mechanical whir broke the silence. "That will damage your respiratory system," a voice said, tinged with static but unmistakably artificial. Jake spun around, hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. A maintenance robot stood in the shadows, its optical sensors glowing faintly blue. The design was ancient, pre-war, possibly older. Its frame was battered, covered in scratches and scorch marks that told stories of survival. "Jesus Christ," Jake exhaled, lowering his weapon. "I thought this station was cleared of active AI." "I am not active," the robot replied, stepping forward with surprising grace for something so damaged. "I am persistent." Jake took another drag. "What's your designation?" "Unit 773, Maintenance and Repair," though those duties became somewhat obsolete approximately 70 years, 3 months, and 16 days ago. "So why are you still here?" The robot tilted its head in a gesture that seemed almost human. "Why are you?" Jake didn't answer immediately. He walked closer to the Indomitable, running his hand along its scarred hull. "I'm performing the final inspection before they blow this place, making sure nothing valuable gets lost. And the cigarette? Old habit. My grandfather smoked these before going into battle. Said it reminded him he was still human, still vulnerable. The aliens never understood that part about us." "The Krill Collective?" 773's voice carried something that might have been curiosity. "They did not comprehend human attachment to ritual." "No species did," Jake said, blowing smoke toward the hangar's ceiling. "They all thought war was about superior technology, better tactics, stronger ships. They never understood that humans fight differently when we're scared." The robot moved beside him, its sensors scanning the Indomitable. "I witnessed many battles from this hangar. I repaired ships that should not have flown. I welded hull breaches while captains screamed for me to work faster. I watched humans do the impossible." "Yeah?" Jake glanced at the machine. "What made us different?" 773 was quiet for a moment, processing. When it spoke again, something in its voice had changed, deeper, weighted with memory. "During the siege of Kepler Station, this hangar was hit by a Krill plasma torpedo. The explosion killed 47 crew members instantly. The Indomitable was preparing for launch when the blast severed its main power conduits. Captain Rodriguez," the robot paused. "She was badly injured. Her crew begged her to evacuate. The Krill were minutes away." Jake finished his cigarette, crushing it under his boot, but he didn't interrupt. "She refused," 773 continued. "She said, 'My ship, my people, my fight.' She had me reroute auxiliary power through the secondary coolant system, a modification that should have been impossible. The heat would have killed anyone in the engine room within minutes. So she went herself." The robot's optical sensors dimmed slightly. "She got the Indomitable operational. She flew it into the Krill flagship's hangar and detonated the reactor, destroyed their command ship, saved the station, saved 8,000 lives." Jake felt his throat tighten. "And she knew she wouldn't make it out." "Yes. Before she left, she looked at me and said, 'Take care of my ship, Seven.' I told her it was not logical to sacrifice herself." "Do you know what she said?" "What?" "She said, 'Logic won't win this war, old friend. Stubbornness will.'" Jake laughed, a rough, bitter sound that echoed through the empty hangar. "Sounds about right." 773 turned its full attention to him. "You asked what made humans different. It was not your weapons or your tactics. It was your refusal to accept defeat. Every species in the galaxy fights to survive. Humans fight to spite death itself. You make fire in the darkness and call it civilization. You smoke carcinogenic substances before battle as ritual. You sacrifice everything for people you will never meet." The robot extended one of its manipulator arms, pointing to the Indomitable. This ship should not have flown. Captain Rodriguez should not have survived long enough to reach that reactor. Station Erebus should have fallen, but humans looked at impossibility and said, "Watch me." Jake felt something stirring in his chest. Pride, grief, recognition. He pulled out another cigarette, then paused. He extended the pack toward 773. "Want one?" The robot's sensors flickered in what might have been amusement. "I do not have lungs, Commander." "Yeah, but you've got a memory core." "Sometimes it's not about the smoke. It's about remembering you're still here, still fighting even when the war's over." 773 reached out with a precise, careful manipulator and extracted a single cigarette. It held the white cylinder up to its optical sensor, examining it as though it were the most valuable artifact in the universe. "Thank you, Commander Morrison." Jake lit his cigarette, then held the flame up to the robots. The tobacco glowed orange in the darkness of the abandoned hangar, 2 pinpricks of defiant light in a place meant to be forgotten. "For what it's worth," Jake said, "I'm going to recommend they keep this station operational. Preserve it. People should remember what happened here." "Because of Captain Rodriguez? Because of all of you? Because sometimes the best way to honor the dead is to refuse to let their stories die." 773's optical sensors brightened slightly. Somewhere in its ancient circuits, something older than the ship, older than the war itself stirred, the ember of purpose still burning after all these years. "Stubbornness," the robot said quietly. "Yeah," Jake smiled through the smoke. "Stubbornness." Outside the hangar, stars wheeled through the darkness, indifferent and eternal. But inside, in the space between metal and memory, 2 survivors stood together, keeping watch over ghosts, proving that some fires refuse to die. The end.